I'd like to welcome you all to the Equality and Rights Alliance's first national conference today. It is great to see so many people in the room ready to discuss and dissect an issue which the government has tried to sideline, and which we have to admit has not been a headlining topic of conversation over the past year, despite its importance. It is also reassuring to have the participation of so many eminent speakers and facilitators at this conference. For me, their willingness to be part of this event, coupled with your own attendance, shows that a critical mass of people do care about equality and human rights and believe that they must be placed at the heart of Ireland's economic and social recovery if we are to emerge from this crisis as a better and fairer country. Over the past few weeks, the Equality and Rights Alliance has been running workshops in towns around the country. What has been remarkable about these workshops has been the revelation that people are genuinely concerned about growing inequality in their everyday lives or the lives of people they know and love in areas like health, education, access to justice, or income disparity, for example. At first, people don't necessarily see the connection between these everyday experiences and the need for a strong state, equality, and human rights infrastructure. But when we explain the potential powers and functions of our equality and rights bodies and our laws in simple language and get people to discuss actual cases, studies where people have been helped and supported by the system, then things change dramatically. Then the participants don't just want to join us in protecting equality and human rights, they want to make it work even stronger. Why can't we include income as a ground for inequality, they ask? Why can't you take a case to vindicate economic, social and cultural rights if Ireland has ratified that international convention? Well, why not? If there's one thing these workshops have taught us, it is that we can never underestimate the sophistication of people to figure out what is fair and what is not, what is right and what is not. Perhaps government doesn't always appreciate just how smart people are, which goes some way to explaining why they felt they could get away with muffling the independent voices of our equality, rights, and social justice agencies last year. Maybe nobody would notice, nobody would care during the summer holidays. Well, the Equality and Rights Alliance noticed, and we're still taking notice over a year later. Let's remind ourselves, the Equality and Rights Alliance started life as a few people sitting in a room when we first heard inklings that government was proposing to amalgamate 5 equality and human rights bodies. We came together as an alliance in September 2008 to oppose this short-sighted move. Amalgamation did not come about, but what actually happened was perhaps more damaging. The government cut the Equality Authority by 43%, and the Irish Human Rights Alliance, the Irish Human Rights Commission by 24%. The government also closed the National Commission on the NCCRI, a body which was set up to advise on combating racism and promoting interculturalism in Ireland. Even while current research by the Fundamental Rights Agency released this year showed that Ireland was one of only 5 EU member states where racist crime and abuse is on the increase, up 30% here since their last report. Furthermore, the government rubber-stamped plans to subsume the Combat Poverty Agency into the Department of Social and Family Affairs, effectively diminishing the independence of the agency. Ironically, this move to dismantle the equality and rights infrastructure served to galvanise and strengthen one of the strongest movements to merge in Ireland in recent years. Since September 2008, Equality and Rights Alliance has grown from 40 to over 130 organisations and activists. I want to stress here that the Equality and Rights Alliance is a truly independent entity. We want to strengthen political commitment to an effective and resilient equality and human rights infrastructure, and we want to provide strategic leadership in protecting, strengthening, and critiquing that infrastructure. And to do that, we have to be a critical voice, and a critical voice causes discomfort. This means we will often have to hold the government of the day accountable and the other pillars that make up the equality and rights infrastructure, including the present Equality Authority and the Irish Human Rights Commission, to account for their delivery of these goals. This also means that sometimes we will have to challenge what we see as inaction, compromise, complacency, lack of independence or ineffectiveness. This means that we may also sometimes irritate, agitate, or disrupt the consensus that has been a dominant part of organisational relationships in Ireland, particularly over the past decade. In their paper, A Better Ireland is Possible, published nearly a year ago, Dr. Mary Murphy and Paddy Kirby talked about switching public discourse and democratic participation from the elite to the street. They suggest that the voluntary and community pillar has concentrated too highly on talking to the elite. If change is to happen, it needs to switch its attention to talking to the street. I take some pride in saying that Equality and Rights Alliance is very definitely out on the street. We are a movement, an alliance, not another NGO. We are whistleblowers. We imagine what can be rather than just accepting what is. Despite the battered landscape we have been left with, I firmly believe that the present crisis can be used as a time of reflection and an opportunity for the overhaul of the current equality, human rights and social infrastructure, and for a fresh start. What we had before the cuts wasn't bad. What we have now is unacceptable. But what we can have with fresh thinking, political will, and strong civil society involvement can be much better. For our part, as the Alliance, civil society, and we, as part of civil society, we have to recognise that civil society is challenged as rarely before to imagine, devise, and construct a renewed and fresh equality and human rights infrastructure that can resume, rebuild, and extend the progress so sharply interrupted last year. To do this, starting today, we must rethink how we can do business competitively and fairly, plan how we can protect the most vulnerable in our society in practice and not just in theory, face up to the gap between formal and substantive compliance with much of our domestic, international and European laws, and challenge the backlash that means that diversity and those that applaud it is often viewed as a problem rather than a cause for optimism. The speakers and workshops in today's programme will pick up on some of these themes, no doubt. I now look forward to hearing their observations, and I particularly look forward to your own active involvement and to your thoughts and observations from the streets and the everyday realities of people in Ireland. So I now look forward I now take great pleasure in welcoming our first speaker, who is Karen Chuan. Karen was selected from 1,600 applicants by the Joseph Rowntree Charitable Trust in 2005 to be one of 7 visionaries with ideas to change the world. Karen has over 3 decades of leadership in social movements to eradicate poverty and inspire race equality and economic justice. She is the founder and director of Economics UK, an initiative to build a UK community-led alliance that reshapes race-related policy through an economic lens. Economics has strong links with the Reverend Jesse Jackson's Rainbow Push Alliance in the United States. Karen, you're most welcome.